And just like everyone, I want to talk about power prices because fair dinkum. Remember the promise. This was the promise before the last election. It was garbage then and it's BS now.
$275, $275, $275, $275, $275, $275, $275, $275.
And remember that that promise was apparently one that didn't apply anymore because, according to the Treasurer, that was based off old modelling and there was a war in Ukraine, despite the fact that it had actually started before this government came to power.
The number you're referring to was a forecast in 21 about an outcome in 25. We're providing energy bill relief in the here and now. We did in the last budget. We are again in the next budget, but there'll be more relief for more people in this budget.
Well, as always, I'm in the front row to see my dear friend Laura Jays each and every morning, 9 o'clock Australian Eastern Daylight Time, and she absolutely ran rings around Chris Bowen. Now, this bloke thinks he's going to be the Prime Minister one day. He thinks, oh, I can pull the New South Wales right behind me. Remember, this is the bloke who wanted to run for the Labor leadership, standing in front of the Weatherboard House. 36 hours later, he had withdrawn because he didn't have a chance. But he thinks his chance is coming, and he thinks the way to get there is by just lying to you about the energy transition that this country is currently in. It is hundreds of billions of dollars that need to be spent on infrastructure that, fingers crossed, will have enough technology firming it, be it gas or coal or batteries, to mean that we don't have scenarios like we've seen this week where people are being told, oh, don't use your washing machine at night, please don't turn up your air conditioner because the grid won't cop it. Well, today he was asked a pretty direct question by Laura about, do you stand by the promise of $275?
Will you commit here and now to bringing down power prices? When will they come down and how?
Well, as I said, we're not walking away from our commitments and plans to bring in more renewable energy, which is the cheapest form of energy.
So who do you believe? The snake charmer in Jim Chalmers or Blackout Bowen? Because one of them is lying to you. It's either still the policy or the modelling has completely changed, which means the policy doesn't count anymore. He was asked about it in question time.
When will the minister finally be straight with the Australian people and admit Labor's $275 bill cut promise has been broken?
And of course he didn't answer the question, but he told the biggest lie I have seen in question time in a very long time. This is what he said.
The inflation figures released by the ABS this week showed a 35% reduction in energy prices, the biggest fall in energy prices ever recorded in Australian history.
But as you know, it's complete garbage. It's not true. The cost of electricity has not fallen. The government is spending billions of dollars to pay the power companies to reduce the bill by $25 a month. The collective result of that across the country is that they are able to go and have inflation numbers that say power prices are remarkably fallen. But they haven't. And remember, unlike the $275 promise, which, by the way, was not a one-off, it was a change to the system that would mean a permanent reduction in the bill you had in 2021, the bill you had in 2022, minus $275 by next year, and that'd be the new base. But as you know, that has not been achieved. In fact, your power prices are up by almost double or quadruple, depending on where you are. And remember, the second they stop bribing the power companies, the bill goes back up, meaning not only does the cost of electricity start to actually be passed on in its full amount to the customer, the impacts on inflation will be extraordinary. But because it's all about just squeaking over the line, trying to tell people in an election that this is not the power bill that you received, the Jedi mind trick, but you and I are onto it. The Australian people are onto it. They made the promise how many times, how loudly? They will not, have not and cannot deliver it. Instead, the reality is the exact opposite. Yet these people think that the collective voter is so stupid that they can be lied to by these people. For his part, Chris Ullman appeared also in our daytime coverage today at his spectacular documentary, which is The Real Cost of Net Zero, currently now available on YouTube. It's at the top of the Sky News YouTube page. Well, he had plenty to say today about the reality that you should always double check that it's raining if Chris Bowen says it's raining.
What we'll see over the course of the next few years on the pathway that we're on, and they're determined to stay on this pathway, and it's not just the federal government, it's the state governments as well, is that the grid will become increasingly unreliable and electricity will become increasingly more expensive because wind and solar generators cannot deliver power on demand. They cannot be an electricity system without relying on something. Now, that something at the moment is coal. In the future, that something will have to be gas, not just a little bit of gas, but 15 gigawatts of gas. Now, I don't know if we have the graphic available, but if you look at what's happening in New South Wales right now, what you will see that 60% of the generation is coming from coal-fired power. There's quite a bit of solar in the system, but look at what's happened with wind. 1%. Why is it that wind's never responsible for the problems that we have in the system? Because, of course, it always gets a free pass. And as coal retires, more expensive sources will be called in order to fill that gap.
Facts matter. Spin and vibes and all the other garbage, people don't fall for it. The reality is that power has gone through the roof as a result of this government choosing one technology over the other. That is just the reality. Please watch that documentary again. It's at the top of our YouTube page. And speaking of documentaries, go to skynews.com.au and check out that incredible one about Cyclone Tracy. They're hitting it out of the park, our docos team at the moment, and I look forward to many more of them next year.